In America, race, almost exclusively, refers to just two of them: black and white. It's no surprise that these two races dominate the conversation, though. From slavery to Jim Crow to segregation, there's more than enough history between the two of them to fill entire books. While the importance of these topics is undeniable, similarly noteworthy events are overlooked, particularly those of the Native Americans. Despite being just as integral to America as other races, Native culture and history are often distorted in media and ignored in classrooms. Schools are where we teach history to the children of the future. But how can they be prepared for the future if their classrooms effectively ignore essential parts of American history? In Missouri, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education sets grade-level expectations for history courses, specifically 94 for high school American history and 72 for world history. Of these 166 standards, only one is about Native Americans, to evaluate the short and long-term impact of Western expansion on Native populations. This one single standard is supposed to represent everything a student is required to learn about Native Americans over 2 whole years of high school level history classes. This isn't just a Missouri problem, though. Missouri's standards are based upon the Common Core state standards, which 44 other states have signed. Standards, however, aren't the only factor when it comes to creating curricula. Teachers also play a critical role. Since the standards regarding Native American history are weak, this means that the amount of content regarding them is left almost entirely up to the teachers. Of course, this leads to considerable variation, even among different teachers within the same school. At University City High School, we interviewed history teachers about how much Native history is included in their curricula.
It depends on the year, right? So in a given class, right, there's so much to cover, you can't cover everything. Some years I cover them more extent. Other years I do not.
So in U.S. history, when we go over westward expansion, we cover it quite a bit. I'd say it's like probably half of the content we cover when it comes to westward expansion in our unit, because it's such a big part of, it's such a big major factor.
We covered a little bit of it with a couple assignments at the very beginning of the year when we were discussing westward expansion. But as far as the rest of the time, we didn't really touch on it.
As a result of these lackadaisical standards and rampant curriculum discrepancies, a poll of 33 students at U-City found that less than 25% rated their knowledge of history between Native Americans and the government as a 4 out of 5 or a 5 out of 5, and just under 10% for solely Native American history. Despite being an indispensable part of American history, in the classroom, Native American history just isn't given the recognition it deserves. By not including Native Americans in the curriculum, they cease to be a part of American history.
While in the classroom people get an incomplete view of Native American history, popular media and culture does even more of a disservice. It gives an incorrect view. Native Americans get shown as stereotypes, an ignorant savage, servants to the white man, the Indian princess, or a people somehow quote-unquote less advanced than the Europeans. Those who assimilated were the quote-unquote good ones. Take the movie Pocahontas, for example. The story is romanticized and made more peaceful, But the difference between Pocahontas and other Disney princesses is that she is a real person. And the story did her a disservice by erasing who she really was in favor of an ideal, a stereotype of a woman so in love with European culture she wants to abandon her people for a man she just met. She was a good Indian that was improved by colonization. As historian Camilla Townsend, an authoritative figure on Native American history and Pocahontas, points out, that whole idea makes people in white American culture feel good about our history, that we were not doing anything wrong to the Indians, but really we were helping them and the good ones appreciated it. The way Pocahontas is painted is a Eurocentric ideal of someone who was vastly improved by colonization. This both ignores the immense horrors that came from westward expansion and distorts who she actually was. Not a lovesick girl, but a child who learned an entirely new language and culture to help her people survive. She is just one example of the many erased and distorted by mainstream ideas of the past. Another common movie trope is the ignorant savage, with a society focused only on war and brutal slaughter. Native people are portrayed as stupid because they didn't have the advanced technology of Europeans. Lacking guns does not mean they lack civility. Look at almost any piece of media with Native Americans before the last few decades and you will see the stereotype. Peter Pan, for instance. Stereotypes such as these have imbued themselves so deep into American media that it is nearly impossible to find a piece of media without it. Thus, most Americans are left with stereotypes of Native people as their only view. They only have a single story. So, why does this matter? It matters because the single story we as Americans have takes away Native Americans' dignity, it takes away the reality, and it takes away their humanity. In her TED Talk, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, a Nigerian novelist, warned of the danger of such narratives. By showing a people as one thing and one thing only, over and over again, that is what they become. A single story prevents connection and understanding. Native Americans exist in many Americans' heads as dissimilar and deserving of pity, not as actual humans. These partial stories do more than cause damage, they also prevent healing. After the end of apartheid in South Africa, the government created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to, find the truth and help the country reconcile its atrocities. The commission reported that an inclusive remembering of painful truths about the past is crucial to the creation of national unity and transcending the divisions of the past. Not just the facts, but also the personal narratives of those affected were crucial to healing, the narratives of everyone involved. While the wounds in America may not be quite as fresh, they were never allowed to truly heal and thus continually reopen. Clashes like the Dakota Pipeline protest happen when the government works against Native people instead of with them. Without every side, one side or another will be reduced to a single story, which would then be perpetuated by the media and in the classroom. As the TRC report said, acknowledgement of the truth is affirmation that a person's pain is real and worthy of attention. It is thus central to the restoration of the dignity of victims. America has never acknowledged the full truth of the matter. As a result, Native American people continue to be a part of a single story of